This podcast is a Radio Mike original production. Head to radiomike.com.au to find out more. Hello everyone, it is Radio Mike here, and I'm just uploading here and doing a little intro for part 3 of my appearances on 3AW afternoons here in Melbourne with Dee Dee Dunleavy. If you are not familiar with this, basically for the past probably 10 weeks or so, I've been filling in on a movies and TV segment on 3AW, which is a talkback radio station here in Melbourne, with Dee Dee Dunleavy, who is an old friend of mine who helped me get into radio when I finished uni. Now I'm doing stuff on her show, which has been really fun. This one is a little shorter than part 1 and part 2, and this will be the last one, because there was only 2 weeks left. Now it's finished up for the year. It was an awesome opportunity. I'm really grateful to Dee Dee, whose show won in the ratings for her time slot again, which is awesome, and I've been super stoked to be a part of it for the last few weeks. This time, there's 2 segments here from the radio where we talk about the second one, because it was yesterday that I did it, is about the Sex and the City reboot, or not reboot, it's more of a sequel series to Sex and the City, and it's called And Just Like That. Pre-warning for you, I've never seen anything to do with Sex and the City, so this was my first experience of it. So keep that in mind when you listen to me talking about it. And the week before that, we actually talked about this Spice Girls documentary series, which is called, I believe it is called Spice Girls: How Girl Power Changed Britain, which was a 3-episode documentary series, and honestly, it was really good. I didn't really know much about the Spice Girls because obviously being a man or a boy born in the 90s when the Spice Girls were, I guess, explicitly targeting women, I just, didn't really get into the Spice Girls. They weren't really aimed towards me, but it was really interesting to learn a lot more about the history of that group and how they came together and how they were really influential to a lot of women. So I enjoyed that very much. There are 2 more main episodes of 20th Century Boy for the year, so be sure to stay on board for those. They will be out on... The final one will be the 29th of December, and then the 22nd, of course, will be the second last episode for the year. So going right up till New Year's, then I'll take a couple weeks off in January just to get my head back into it before we start Season 4. So, super exciting times. Thank you so much for your support, and enjoy this over to me and Dee Dee on her radio show.
Now, on Afternoons.
Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for.
It's time for the showdown.
22 minutes to 3, the Spice Girls documentary has aired on the 9 network. You can now see it on 9 Now. I think it's still available to stream there. Michael Liberale joins me. Hi, Michael.
Hello, Dee Dee. I actually think you might be really surprised at what I thought about this Spice Girls documentary, which is called Spice Girls: How Girl Power Changed Britain. And wow, this is an amazing story, but I also love that on the same week that the long-anticipated Beatles documentary, Beatles Get Back, came out, you instead opt to watch a Spice Girls documentary.
Yep, it's mostly because I don't have Apple Plus and I can't stream the Beatles one. I'll sort that out over Christmas time. Michael, I just want to say to you, be very, very careful what you say about the Spice Girls in my presence. Look, Rita Patty turned a nose up at this and said we were scraping the bottom of the barrel talking about it. And I do not think that is fair at all. If you've watched it, what do you think? 133 693. What did you think of the documentary? And who's your favourite Spice Girl? Michael, just before we get your review, Nikki joins us. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, guys. Look, I'm a massive Spice Girls fan. Seen the movie a bazillion times. Seen the documentary. Ginger rocks my world. the Beatles, who are they? Go the Spice Girls.
Right. Thank you, Nikki. Ginger's cool. Posh is my favourite, always has been. Michael, what did you think of it? Because I'm sorry, just before you answer, I watched this. My daughter was in the room and she is the same age as you. And I figured, so you would have been around about 1 year old when they were at their peak.
Yeah, and I think that I was going to ask about your daughter because I'm the same age as your daughter, but obviously I think I'm probably the furthest demographic from where the Spice Girls were targeting in their prime. Like I'm a male, they were definitely a girl power band, so I never really got into the Spice Girls at all, admittedly. I do know most of their popular songs, like Wannabe, To Become One, and they are bangers. I think we can agree that those songs are bangers. And to be honest, I thought this documentary was amazing. I was hooked on every episode.
Good.
Like, it was actually so fascinating to see the story of these girls, of these women, and the barriers that they faced, just being a girl group, and like trying to make it in the music industry. And I think the way they were treated by a lot of journalists and other musicians, I think there's a lot of grabs in this from people like Noel Gallagher, one of the Oasis brothers, mocking the Spice Girls a lot, and just the strength, particularly of Geri Halliwell. She's Ginger Spice. Is that right, Dee Dee?
That's correct, yeah. And you're right, they became like a punching bag for everyone and people said, oh, they're so commercial. Well, what else are you doing? That's what they're doing to make a living. It didn't matter that they had commercial arrangements as well. It had sort of, for me, shades of what happened with Britney Spears, where they just became a target for people. People turned on them and they became a joke in the media. But it was even nastier than that. It was the tabloids set out to attack and destroy them. And what I still can't put my finger on, apart from that they just didn't like the idea that 5 young women were doing what they wanted, having fun doing it, being successful at it, but they wanted to bring them down. And it was really nasty the way they were attacked, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think also the fact that these were 5 women who were like very body positive and anti them being purely sexualized for money, and they would speak out about that a lot. I think that strength of a lot of them, again, particularly Ginger Spice, she seemed to be one of the very outspoken members, but I think it was really admirable, and I didn't know much about them, but I really enjoyed this. Like, I was actually glued to it. And yeah, I remember being a little boy and girl power, like a lot of girls at my school would say girl power, and it's amazing to see how much of an influence the Spice Girls had on girls from my generation.
Yeah, and the thing, Michael, that having lived through those years, the thing that was so different and so unique about them was that, and it is touched on in the documentary, that up to that point it was just boy band after boy band. That was all that was offered because all the marketing executives at the record companies believed that that's what young girls wanted to see. And so here was something being offered to young girls that was quite different. They were sort of almost role models for the young girls. And it worked. It just worked in that time. And it lasted such a short time. And I do find it interesting because I know there were people at the time who were like, oh, they'll be gone. They're just, a blip on the radar. And yet here we are 25 years later still talking about them. And they are still a very valid and interesting story. 133693, who was your favourite Spice Girl? Something they didn't explain, and I haven't seen the second episode yet. I've recorded it and I'm looking forward to watching that tonight. But I didn't really understand at the time, and I didn't really understand in the documentary why Ginger left. Do you think it was just the pressure, Michael? Was it clear to you?
I have watched episode 2, and the vibe I got was just that the criticism and the constant being photographed and paparazzi and everything that came with stardom and celebrity was just too much for her to handle. And I think all of them were very young when they became famous, and I think it just became a little bit too much for Geri in particular, and she decided to leave.
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of time, I believe, based on this documentary, where they were performing as a group of 4. But very quickly, similar to how when Zayn Malik left One Direction, very quickly after one of a boy band or girl group leaves, do the rest sort of crumble, which is a shame.
Don't open the wound again, please, Michael. I can't bear it. It's bad enough that we don't have the Spice Girls anymore, and then you bring One Direction into it. I'm wrecked.
I know.
Look, I know I need to grow up, but I love the Spice Girls, and it really is actually just a fascinating document, even if you don't like their music, on the way that they were treated. Did anyone watch? What did you think of it? Did you learn anything from it? 133 693. Back with Michael Liberale. Showdown in just a moment. It's 2:45.
You're listening to Afternoons on 3AW. Go with insurance that insures Australia's go-getters. APIA. Get set, go.
Michael Liberale, I was living for the moment where Posh met Bex. Now, surely, even though you're born before the Spice Girls sort of were at their peak, you're familiar with the whole Posh and Bex scenario.
I am familiar with it. I do know that, what's her name? What's Posh's real name? Victoria. Victoria Beckham and David Beckham are married. Are they still together?
Yes, they are, despite the fact that
Amazing.
people said, oh, it won't last. And there were allegations of him having an affair, which I still don't believe. There was
Those are touched on later in the documentary series. It's very interesting. And as well as that, there is also discussion of Mel B and her relationship with comedian Eddie Murphy, who I know most as Donkey from the Shrek franchise. But she and Eddie Murphy have a child together. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. That was news to me. I had no idea about that.
Yeah. And did you know that the Spice Girls are actually planning a world tour? So I think it's being sort of rough.
I think I might go after seeing this documentary. I'm keen to see, because they actually show either in, I think it's episode 2, they show the Spice Girls reuniting for the London 2012 Olympics. And it is such an awesome moment. It's actually great to see them all just back together. And I'm not even a fan of them, but I think I've inadvertently just become a fanboy from watching this documentary.
This is excellent news because judging by the number of calls we've had, aka 0, no, just the one about loving Jerry, you and I are probably the only two that will be there, but we will be there, Michael. So apparently they're having trouble talking Victoria into doing it. But the others are all keen too. So I think they've just got to sway her around to it. But she's got a very successful career as a fashion designer. And so there's really, from a money point of view, she doesn't need to. But there was a fight as a result of this documentary in my house. Michael, would you like to hear?
Was there?
Yeah.
I definitely want to hear.
Well, it ties in with exactly what the documentary is about, and that is all the tabloid lies that were told about them. And so my husband wouldn't enter the room while it was on the TV, and I said, oh, I'm nearly up to the bit. I can't wait for the bit where Posh meets Bex. And he said, oh, well, she was responsible for him leaving Man United because she got between him and the manager. And I said, that is exactly what this documentary is about. Stop blaming the women for everything. It's not their fault.
It's like how Yoko Ono broke up the
Yes.
Beatles, to reference another music documentary.
Apparently.
It seems to always be a woman's fault when something happens to a man's career, which is a shame.
Exactly. And that, I think, sums up why this is such an interesting documentary. It is still streaming on 9 now. Michael, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I thought you might be hating it. So appreciate you watching for Showdown. Look forward to chatting with you again next week. Michael Liberale there. And we'll take a quick break. It's 5 to 3.
Now, on Afternoons,
Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for.
it's time for the Showdown.
It's 25 to 3. Have you watched the Sex and the City reboot and Just Like That? What do you think of it? There are lots of different elements that have been discussed a great deal in the media. 1, the women look their age. 2, their fashion. 3, the Peloton thing, whatever the bicycle thing was, the big was on, and the absence of Samantha. Lots of different things. Joining me now to discuss, Michael Liberale. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dee Dee. Look, I will say to the listeners, most of the time it kind of goes 1 for 1, where I choose something we'll talk about on Showdown, then you talk about something we'll talk about on Showdown. This was definitely your week, because as a 27-year-old man, Sex and the City is almost the polar opposite of anything that I would be interested in, but I am totally open to watching new things. But this is kind of like me asking you to come and watch the new Spider-Man movie with me this weekend, which I don't think you'd be that interested in.
I'm so glad. Yeah, this is our last one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Zero interest.
Otherwise, next week it'd be all Spidey.
So did you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, but as a piece of television, if you were coming into it cold, what did you make of it?
Oh, I mean, I didn't think it was like bad, but I just had no idea about any of the references to the universe of the original show. And obviously we're living in this era where everything has to have a prequel and a sequel and all these expanded things, and this is part of that culture. And I imagine for a particular demographic, this is really exciting. But for me, I only watched the first episode of the 2 that are available, and it just felt like a pretty normal drama series. Is that kind of what it is?
Well, kind of. I don't know how to define it because it was kind of funny. It's a little bit different for those of us who are diehard fans of Sex and the City because so it's always been for women, and that at the time when it launched, I think it was oh God, I can't even think off the top of my head what year it was, but at the time it was quite groundbreaking, and they would talk about sex a lot, and they were using all of the words, and everyone was a bit shocked by that because it was on after 9 o'clock at night. It was unusual to have 4 women all starring in a show that was just about female relationships. 133693 if anyone has watched Sex and the City over the years. What did you think of And Just Like That, or what do you think about it? One of the things it was criticised for, Michael, and this is what I don't really get, was that it was too straight and too white, which I find baffling because 2 of the key characters in it are gay. But being too white, to me, that was just what that show was. And if you were watching it and you want to see someone who isn't white, then don't watch that show. Watch a different show. So there's new characters have been introduced. But yes, there's one missing from the 4, and that's, sorry, I'm rambling all over the place. Samantha is missing. Now, what did that make sense to you?
Yeah, I'm definitely aware of the fact that there are 4 original Sex and the City girls, but from what I understand, and this may or may not be a spoiler to people who wanted to watch it, they've kind of there's been some off-screen drama between the actresses, leading to the actress for Samantha not wanting to appear in this, and they've given a reason in the actual story as to why she's not there, which is that she's kind of disconnected with the friends and has gone over to live in London.
Yes.
And from what I can tell, people are pretty disappointed in this. Like, hardcore fans are disappointed.
No, I think as a hardcore fan, and I qualify that by saying I've actually gone to the steps of Carrie's house and had my picture taken in New York. So that's
wow.
There's always, so it's a little street called, I don't know what they say the street is that she lives in the show, but it's actually a little street called Perry Street in New York, and it's like a holy grail. And in fact, they had to put a chain up across it saying "Do not stand." You're not allowed to actually stand on the steps that lead up to the apartment. Yeah, it's that bad. There's always crowds of people along there waiting to have.
It's kind of like it's like Abbey Road. You know
yes.
how people try to go across the road at Abbey Road? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Wow, that's huge.
And I'm not actually joking. It is exactly the same thing. I realise it's a different holy grail depending on your taste and whatever you're into. But for fans of the show, it definitely is that. I'd love to hear from anyone else who has actually done that, because I did step up one step, and so I was standing on the step in front of the sign that says "Do not stand on the step." Did you, Michael, coming in and watching it, did you understand why there is this love for Sarah Jessica Parker, or are you just kind of scratching your head going, huh, she's just an actress?
No, I can totally get it. Like, that character, just from this first episode, seems so full of life and comedy and humor and fun. So I can definitely understand people loving it. One thing I did love in this is how because the character's Carrie that she plays, and she now works on a podcast, and I just think that's such a classic way to make everyone know that this is set in the current day, that this is 2021, because the main character is now doing a podcast, which is so big now. I loved that.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, so in the original show, she was a writer, a columnist in a newspaper, and then she published a book.
Ah.
And every column was a different thing. And I think it's all based. So Candace Bushnell is the author of the books that it's based on, and apparently they were sort of pulled together from stories of women in her own life and things that had happened to them, and they were made into episodes. So each episode was a column that Carrie was writing, and the topic that she was writing about that day, and then things that would happen would fit with that. All right, we're going to take a break. Michael and I would like to hear your calls. Have you watched the Sex and the City TV series, the new one, and Just Like That? 2 episodes have already gone to air, and a new one will come out each Thursday. If you've seen the first 2, are you going to stick with it, or are you a bit like, meh, not so sure? And what's good or bad about it? We'll take your calls. 133 693. Michael Liberale is with me. Showdown. We are looking today at And Just Like That, which is the reboot of Sex and the City. If you've got thoughts, 133 693. Have you ever, by the way, after my trip to Perry Street in New York to Carrie's house, have you ever made a pilgrimage to somewhere from a TV show that you loved? 133 693. Michael, Riley joins us. Hi, Riley.
Hi. I don't like Miranda. I used to watch it with my friends, and it's lacking substance. It's just disappointing. It's letting me down, I feel.
They've made her really clumsy, haven't they, Riley? That scene where she was sort of awkward at the university, it's not like her at all.
It's just like they've just had a dive in my flatty hole and I just don't like it anymore. I can't understand what they've done. It's just clumsy, as you said.
No, it's
Good
changed.
word.
The dynamic has changed. Thank you, Riley. The dynamic has changed without Samantha there. Samantha was always the cheeky and the sort of, and Michael, I know that question I was trying to answer that you asked earlier was is it a drama, or it sort of had elements of comedy, but a lot of the comedy came from Samantha because she was sort of wild and really sexy, and she would drop some of the funniest lines, and it seems to have lost that. Penny, good afternoon.
Hi, Dee Dee. Yes, look, I couldn't agree more with the previous caller. I used to love it, and so did my husband, and we watched both episodes last night, and look, we thought it was cringeworthy.
Cringeworthy?
It was lame. Yeah.
Wow.
It just sort of, we just, we thought, we can't watch this anymore. We love the old show, but look, I think, Samantha is the essential ingredient that really is missing.
Maybe she is.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And they tried hard, but I think it just didn't hit the mark, and sort of it was the script and the missing Samantha in our eyes. It was sort of lame too. I mean, I suppose we're of a similar genre age-wise, but just felt it was, lame, and it just felt uncomfortable.
Okay, Penny, thank you. See, for me, it is, lame's too strong a word. It is a sort of it didn't come in with a big bang, but for me, it just felt comfortable watching this show that I've always loved. There was something comfortable about being with those girls again, which I quite liked, but maybe people were expecting more. Jim, good afternoon.
Yeah, the Vicar of Dibley was shot in a little village in Buckinghamshire called Turville, and my wife and I made a pilgrimage there, and there's her Geraldine's residence and the Church of St Barnabas and the whole area. It's just gorgeous, absolutely beautiful.
That's a nice place to make a pilgrimage to. Michael, have you ever done that? Have you ever gone to somewhere from a movie or TV?
I never have, but if I ever make it over to the US, the main thing I want to do is go to the Tom's restaurant from Seinfeld, followed by the cafe from Friends. Like, I've seen so many people taking photos, and that iconic stretch of that says Tom's restaurant on the outside, that's literally that establishing shot from Seinfeld. I would love to go there. Yes.
I've got some terrible news for you. Central Perk doesn't exist.
Doesn't it?
No.
Oh, since when? When did Central Perk not become a thing?
It's not. It's a brilliant name, but it took me a long time to go, that's why they called it that. Obviously, it must have been imaginary near Central Park. No, completely fictional. It's not there.
I feel so silly, but I swear I have seen friends post photos there, but it must be like a set then.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe after the reunion show, they set something up. I don't know, but you know, I don't think don't think it's real.
I feel like I've just embarrassed myself on
No,
Melbourne
'cause
radio because I
Tom's Diners
genuinely
there.
thought it was a real place.
Stress the one that's really there. Yeah. Well, no, I thought it was too. I actually thought it was, and it was only when I was like doing research, going, where can I go to? What can I go and see that I've seen on the telly? Discover that it's not. But yeah, you're right. Tom's Diner or Tom's Restaurant is the one that they use in Seinfeld. Linda, good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon, Dee Dee. Look, a bit of a funny one. Years ago, when our children were really little, my girlfriend flew us up to Sydney to spend a weekend with her because she was really homesick. So we all went up there, and she's all excited, and she's got this fantastic itinerary, and she's taking us here and taking us there. And the only thing my husband and I wanted to go and see was the original, the first thing that they did on the block. You know, the block in Sydney with the bosses on television. She was so disappointed when that was all we wanted to see in Sydney was where they'd done the block. It was hilarious. Their face, I'll never forget it.
They get massive crowds to the opening of the block houses when they're done, even still, Linda. So you're not alone. I think a lot of people would love to go and see, because when you've seen it be done on the telly, you want to see it in real life. Sally, good afternoon.
Hello, Dee Dee. Look, it's just too early to assume the worst on, and just like that, because, we had to get over the death of Big and all the new woke people. So, I don't think we can kill it off yet.
Yeah.
It's too much to kill off yet. We just little steps forward, I think we just need to take. I think
so. Yeah, and I don't know if I love all the woke people either, Sally, if I'm really being honest. Thank you for your call. Michael, I need to thank you very, very much for filling in on this segment for Kirsten, my producer, who's been on leave for some time. She'll be back in the new year. So your work here is done. It's been absolutely wonderful. You've been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, Dee Dee. It's been a pleasure for me too. So thanks for having me on board.
Wonderful. Michael Liberale there, and that's our last showdown for the year. Kirsten will be back in the new year. It's 6 minutes to 3.
That is it, guys. I know I said this at the top of the episode, but I did want to reiterate that it was actually really cool for me to do this. I am trying to find more opportunities to do stuff like this and more opportunities to, speak and do radio stuff, as well as obviously podcasts as well. So this has been really fun, and I genuinely really appreciate. I've gotten a lot of feedback from you guys that really enjoy this stuff. So I also wanted to say, and I know I said this in the top, but if you were into like pop culture and movie stuff, there is an experimental thing I'm going to be starting in 2022 that is going to bring more of that stuff, as well as on my YouTube channel. There's a lot of content surrounding all of that, but stay tuned for that, as well as patreon.com/Radio Mike if you are interested in supporting me. That really helps. We nearly have 50 patrons there, which is amazing, and I've really appreciated it. So yeah, guys, I will speak to you before it, but have a Merry Christmas if this is the last thing you listened to from me before Christmas. Hope you have a Merry Christmas, whatever your denomination is. I hope you have a safe holiday, and I really appreciate you listening. Thanks, guys. Catch you soon. This podcast was a Radio Mike original production. Head to radiomike.com.au to check out all our other content, stay up to date at radio.mike on Instagram, and get in touch, radiomikepod@gmail.com.